Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Monday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, meteorologist with the National Weather Service, hosting today's show. Up first, we've got hazardous weather graphic. Starting in the interior, the yellow area, that's winter weather advisories for snow and blowing snow. Several inches expected tonight through tomorrow. They're from the upper Yukon Valley out to the Seward Peninsula, southward to the northern Kuskokwim Valley, McGrath, Nikolai, Tanana, including the Fairbanks area. Look for snow with blowing snow, reducing visibility to less than a half mile at times. And eastern Alaska Range, that's a blizzard warning out for tonight until actually 3 p.m. Tuesday. Looking for 5 to 10 inches of snow with winds gusting to 75 miles per hour. Creating whiteout conditions. And then for the Susitna Valley, that's a winter storm warning for heavy snow until, 9 a.m. Tuesday morning. Looking for 8 to 16 inches of snow in the valley there, heaviest over toward the Alaska Range. Again, that's out for tonight until 9 a.m. Tuesday morning. St. Lawrence Island, blizzard warning. Bering Sea coast, also a blizzard warning, as well as the Noatak Valley in the northwest coast into Kotzebue Sound, all under the influence of a blizzard warning until midnight tonight. Wind chills 50 degrees below zero, northeast winds gusting to 50 miles per hour, and that should improve tomorrow. And then for the Yakutat area, heavy snow warning out for tonight into tomorrow, later tonight into tomorrow, 5 to 10 inches of snow expected there. With mounts could be heavier in some areas and lighter in others. Moving on to satellite imagery, you can see a lot of moisture at the front. The whole frontal boundary there shifting from west to east, but south to north flow pulling moisture in and spreading that in over south central Alaska today with several inches of snow falling from northeast Bristol Bay up into south central Alaska and the Kenai Peninsula, Susitna-Mananuska Valley with areas of snow all the way north up to the eastern Arctic coast. Not all that heavy up that way. And then breaking out to showers over the eastern Aleutians and some clouds and moisture around the Pribilofs. And then farther to the west, you can see the next frontal boundary there, at least the cirrus shield associated with it, and actually the back edge showing up there on the lower left of the picture. That pushing in toward the western Aleutians. Dry day over the southeast coast, sunshine, clear skies all the way from Skagway with north winds gusting 30 to 40 miles an hour to the northeast down to Dixon Entrance. Very nice day, dry conditions there, but that'll gradually change. And low pressure pulling northward at the surface just west of Cape Lisburne, Point Hope, and the southeast Chukchi Sea. That brought pretty strong winds. Kotzebue had a peak wind gust of 55 miles per hour. Tin City, Bering Strait on the coast there, 58 miles per hour for a peak wind gust there. And Cape Lisburne had a peak wind gust of 74 miles per hour a couple of times during the day today. And as that low pulls up to the northeast, winds will diminish. Again, blowing snow prevalent across that entire area there into the Kobuk Valley and up toward the Alaska Range there with some moisture even over the eastern Alaska Range. Some of that's blowing and drifting around as well. And winds on the increase, at least out of the Alaska Range there with that tightening gradient and gusting about 30 to 40 miles an hour this afternoon. Again, expected to increase with the blizzard warning out for the eastern Alaska Range as those winds increase. Snowfall increases with moisture pushing northward. And snow changed to rain, Bristol Bay and into Iliamna Lake area, and also down towards southern Cook Inlet into Kachemak Bay, Homer. But snow, temperatures in the upper 20s, northern Cook Inlet into the Mananuska-Susitna Valley today with a mixture of rain occurring wherever the wind's blowing, temperatures popping up into the upper 30s, mid to upper 30s over the Kenai Peninsula and North Gulf Coast areas. precipitation not quite reaching Yakutat for tonight. It will reach Yakutat, heavy snow warning out there, and widespread area of snow across all of interior Alaska, blowing and drifting there, eastern Alaska range where the blizzard warning's out. Conditions improve, but it'll stay quite windy over the western Arctic coast, but winds will drop off dramatically there for the Chukchi Sea up to Cape Lisburne, Point Hope area, Noatak Valley, but snowfall will taper off but continue, becoming kind of showery there for the St. Lawrence Island area. Gale force winds and rain with the next front pushing into the southwest Bering and to Adak and Atka. As a break, dry conditions, lighter winds take over for the Fox Islands, Alaska Peninsula. And for tomorrow, snow again, mostly widespread over the central eastern interior from Copper River Basin to the Arctic coast and drying out over the southwest interior. Rain and snow or rain and snow showers continue for the North Gulf Coast into the northern Panhandle, and wind and rain push slowly eastward in toward the Fox Islands and up toward the Pribilofs once again. Behind the front, conditions improve. Could be some sunshine out over the western Aleutian areas to Shimei and Attu, and then back into the rain and snow showers for those areas. But wind's not all that bad on Wednesday. Fox Islands, a little breezy, rain and snow showers there as the front pushes eastward. Rain heavy at times through the Alaska Peninsula into Bristol Bay, even up into Togiak Bay. Mixture of rain or snow. Mostly rain, lower elevations, southwest interior, snow and blowing snow, St. Lawrence Island, up across the Seward Peninsula into Kotzebue Sound and the northwest coast. Another round of moisture coming northward, rain or snow, south central Alaska, trying to push north of the Alaska Range, having a tough time doing so. So as a result, look for some sunshine from the Fairbanks area, Tanana Valley northward, all the way up to the eastern north slope. Not a bad day up that way, as well as the northern Panhandle looking pretty good in the north, with some scattered rain and snow showers down to the south as that weakening trough approaches the coastline. Lows tonight, low below zero there for the upper Yukon Valley to Arctic Village, 0 to 5 below. Single numbers for the central and eastern Arctic coast, north slope. Teens to the west, in the 20s for the Seward Peninsula, mid-20s St. Lawrence Island, mid-20s for the lows Copper River Basin, and anywhere from 30 to 40 above for south central Alaska, warmest toward Homer, Seldovia, lower 40s for Kodiak Island, 30 to 35 for Bristol Bay, upper 20s to mid-30s for the Alaska Peninsula, mid-30s eastern Aleutians, and teens to mid-20s for the Panhandle. Highs rising into the 30s for the southeast coast tomorrow, lower 40s Copper River Basin with that southerly flow, into the mid to upper 20s in the Tanana Valley, upper 30s to lower 40s. Anchorage, Palmer, down toward upper 40s around Homer, and lower 40s for Prince William Sound, Kodiak Island, 40 to 45 for the Alaska Peninsula, upper 20s St. Lawrence Island, lower 40s western Aleutians, and lower 20s all the way up to the central Arctic coast, and 10 to 15 for the eastern Brooks Range and the Yukon Flats. Lows a little below zero up over the northeast interior, Yukon Flats area down to Northway and Tok, and either side of zero along the Arctic coast, followed by lows in the above freezing there for Bristol Bay, mid to upper 30s for the Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island, teens northern Panhandle, 30 to 35 down to the south out toward the coastline, and then highs 40 to 45 southwest interior all the way up in towards Sleep Mute, Aniak, highs in the lower 40s near freezing for McGrath, 30 to 40 for south central Alaska, above zero everywhere else.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to flying weather. We've got IFR just catching the central Arctic coast, a big area of IFR, western interior south of the Brooks Range into the Yukon Flats, and hit and miss over the upper Tanana Valley 40-mile country into the Copper River Basin, but solid IFR, southern Copper River Basin, North Gulf Coast, and Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula, right out to the southwest coast, Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island, IFR, southern coast of the Alaska Peninsula. Another band of IFR pushing into the western Aleutians late tonight and then advancing eastward to Adak in the afternoon. Otherwise, marginal VFR out that way. VFR over the southern Panhandle, and marginal VFR extreme north becomes becomes marginal VFR over the northern half of the southeast coast, southern Panhandle VFR, Cook Inlet, western Kenai Peninsula, Kamishak, Kachemak Bays, VFR, southern Kodiak Island up to Chiniak, Marmot Bay, southern Shelikof Strait, IFR, IFR extending along the south coast of the Alaska Peninsula to the Fox Islands, Adak and Atka, right in that band of IFR. Northern Bering Sea through the Bering Strait, all IFR, and across the Yukon, part of the Kuskokwim Delta, Norton Sound, and along and south of the Brooks Range into the Koyukuk Valley. Some VFR over the northern interior, and IFR still along the central Arctic coast. And for the morning Wednesday, IFR, Brooks Range southward into the central interior. Southern Alaska, scattered areas of EFR, scattered areas of marginal VFR, and scattered areas of IFR, mostly along the North Gulf Coast, Kodiak Island IFR, most of the Panhandle IFR, Alaska Peninsula IFR, especially the south coast. Bering Sea, widespread IFR from the northwest coast through the Strait, Seward Peninsula, right on down to the Pribilofs, and hit and miss along the central and western Aleutians. And for the afternoon, that lifts northward, some VFR possibly breaking out for west central Aleutians, otherwise marginal VFR, IFR holding on to the Fox Islands, Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island, up along Kamishak Base, Resurrection Bay into Prince William Sound, southern Panhandle becoming VFR, Lincoln Glacier Bay over toward Yakutat, improving over the interior. A lot of VFR now showing up with some marginal VFR, especially south and west. Otherwise, northern Bering Sea pretty well socked in with IFR conditions, right on down to the Pribilofs. And for Anaktuvuk tomorrow, optimistically, a VFR mostly day coming up there, adding in marginal VFR at times. Lake Clark and Merrill, starting out IFR, becoming marginal VFR. Same trend for rainy, IFR trending toward marginal VFR. Windy, same trend also, IFR to start, marginal VFR into the afternoon toward evening. Isabel, occasionally marginal. Mintesta, mostly marginal VFR. Tanita, IFR becoming marginal VFR toward midday and through the afternoon. And for Portage, starting out IFR and then the IFR lingering on the eastern approach, becoming marginal VFR on the west side. Chilkoot and White, VFR, and then rapidly downward trending conditions, ceilings, visibilities, all coming down to the IFR threshold, definitely by afternoon. And for the freezing levels at the surface, across the southern third of the state, and then 2,000 feet up to the southern Kenai Peninsula, 4,000 feet across Kodiak Island, and 2,000 feet over the west central Aleutian around Adak to Amchitka Island. And as far as icing goes, with a system pushing eastward, we've got considerable moderate rime icing, 5,000 to 16,000 feet eastern North Gulf Coast, with increasing icing over the northern Panhandle. Area of elevated icing potential there along the upper Yukon River, actually all the way down into the delta there. And then with that next front, some possible considerable moderate rime icing coming into the central Aleutians, moving from west to east. And the jet stream, with that system up at 33,000 feet, we've got south winds 100 to 105 knots from south to north into the south central Bering Sea. Westerlies 115 knots there, cutting right across the Northway Tok area, eastern Alaska range. 9,000 feet, southerlies 40 to 55 knots. Bering Sea there with a couple of lows south of the central Aleutians and over the western Bering. Westerlies 50 knots, kind of a weak low tracking eastward across southern Alaska. And at 3,000 feet, southeast 40 knots, narrow band there along the North Gulf Coast, otherwise southwest or west 40 knots right over Fort Yukon. Turbulence-wise, moderate chop, considerable moderate chop, Alaska.
Ahoy, Extra Cadets, and welcome to the Okeanos Explorer. I'm Debbie, and I'm an ocean explorer. I work for NOAA, which stands for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Together with many other people, I work on this ship and we explore the deep sea. How do we do that? Let's go find out.
Octonauts, let's do this. Yow!
The pressure in the ocean is so great humans can't go there, so we send a special robot. Octocadets, meet Deep Discoverer, our special robot for ocean exploration. And this is Chris. He works with Deep Discoverer. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Debbie.
Can you tell us about what Deep Discoverer does?
Sure. So this is Deep Discover, and today we're going to take Deep Discover up to 4 miles down to the ocean floor so you can see what Deep Discoverer sees.
And how do we do that?
We do that by using these powerful cameras and powerful lights.
That's neat. And what is that?
And this is our manipulator arm, and we use this arm to take biological and geological samples that we store up front in these boxes, and so that we can bring them to the surface so scientists can analyze them.
Wow, isn't that cool, Octocadets? Wow! Now that we know more about the special robot that explores the seafloor, let's find out more about the ship. Octocadets, let's do this. Now let's find out what we do with D2's video. Come along. This is the control room. A lot of things about D2 happen in here. Behind me, you see the pilots. They steer D2 on the seafloor. And over here, we have scientists. Hi, Steve and Stacy.
Hi, this is Steve and I'm Stacy and we are marine biologists.
Can you tell us about the work you do here?
We actually look at the videos collected by the robots and we try to identify organisms along with other scientists on the shore.
What are you looking at right now?
We're actually looking at a sea star.
That's so awesome, thank you. Now let's look at how we make maps of the seafloor.
Excellent, Quasi. A good map helps you to get to places you've never been.
We also have a scientist on board who makes maps of the seafloor. Hi, Derek.
Hi, Debbie.
Can you tell us about your work?
Sure. My job on the ship is to make maps of the ocean floor. We do this by sending sound from the bottom of the ship. It echoes off the seafloor and comes back to the ship. And then from that, we can make maps like this. So this is what it would look like if you were able to drain the water out of the ocean and actually see what the landscape looked like down there. We use these maps to give the vehicles a place to dive, and they explore further, just like Octonauts do.
Status report, Dashi.
We're right on course, Captain.
So earlier we learned that D2 picks things up from the seafloor with his manipulator arm. Let's find out what we do with those samples. This is the wet lab, and Megan spends a lot of time here. Megan, can you tell us about your work?
I am the sample data manager, so when the ROV comes up, we go out and we collect the samples from the ROV and we bring them in here. And we try to record as much information about them as possible, everything from the details about what they look like to the environment conditions where they were found. How cold was it, for example? Then we come in and we take imagery using this microscope, and we take pictures using this camera as well. And then after we get all the pictures taken and we're ready, we prepare them for shipping to other scientists and museums so more science can be done, such as the squat lobster, this cup coral as well.
And what is that?
This is a piece of coral, or several pieces of coral, that we think might actually be a new species. So we are going to send it out for a comparison to existing species to see if we discovered something new.
Wow, you have a really cool job.
Thank you.
Fascinating. I've read about this, but I've never actually seen it.
An important part of how we explore the ocean is keeping in touch with scientists and Octocadets on shore. Let's go see how we do that. Rosemary, could you tell the Octocadets a little about what that dish does?
Sure. My name is Lieutenant Rosemary Abbott. I'm the operations officer aboard the Okeanos Explorer, and that is our VSAT. It stands for Very Small Aperture Terminal, and inside that satellite dome is a very powerful dish antenna that allows us to communicate with shore and share video in real time. The technology is called telepresence.
Wow, that is so interesting. Thank you, Rosemary. Now I'm getting really hungry. Let's go to the kitchen and talk about food. This is the ship's kitchen, also known as the galley. And this is Michael. Hi, Michael.
Hi, Debbie.
Michael is the chief steward on this ship, and he keeps 49 people fed for 3 weeks at a time. Michael, how do you do that?
With a lot of care and with the help of 3 crew members. I have myself, the chief steward, a chief cook, and a second cook. And we just do it with a lot of love and care and make sure that everybody's happy and well fed. We use up to 150 dozen eggs per trip, up to 100 gallons of milk, a lot of veggies and fruits, a lot of snacks. Everybody's very pleased with what we usually put out. We also make sure that we do it in a loving way, in a sanitary way, in a safe way that keeps everybody from getting any tummy aches.
I'm about to enter the ship's bridge. It's like the Octopod's headquarters.
Octonauts to the HQ.
Ahoy, Captain.
Ahoy, Debbie.
Hi, Eric.
Hello.
Octocadets, meet Eric Johnson, the commander of the ship. Eric, can you tell us about what you do up here?
Absolutely. Hello, Octa Cadets. My name's Eric Johnson. I'm an O-Corps officer, and I'm the captain of the Okeanos Explorer. Welcome to my office. This is where we drive the ship. This is where we control the operations. We run the propellers that are underneath us in the back to the wheel up here at the front, which is where we steer. It's a pretty cool job. It's very exciting, and it's pretty beautiful around here as well.
So, Octocadets, now you know a little bit about the ship and how we explore the deep sea. I hope you enjoyed our time together. I'll see you next time.
Debbie, safety first.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Coastal water forecast. Not too bad on the south coast there. Southerlies 10 to 20 knots, seas up to 8 feet. Small craft advisories for the north coast for south to southwest winds at 25 knots. Lincoln Glacier Bay, south at 20 knots, seas 4 feet. Stevens Passage, southeast winds 15 knots with 3 foot seas. Even lighter winds in the forecast for the southern inner channels. Clarence Strait, southeast at 10, seas down to 2 feet. And for Wednesday, south coast, southeast winds 15 to 20 knots, seas around 10 feet. Small craft advisory still on the north coast. Southeast 25 knots, seas around 13 feet. Lincoln Glacier Bay, northern inner channels, winds mostly northerly at 15 knots with 3 foot seas. Stevens Passage, northeast at 15 knots. Clarence Strait, still light winds in the forecast. Southeast at 10 knots, seas 2 feet. Gale warnings in effect, or gale warnings for Prince William Sound for Tuesday. For east winds up to 35 knots, seas almost 7 feet. Eastern North Gulf Coast, lighter winds south to 20 knots with 10 foot seas. East and southeast winds of 15 knots for the western North Gulf Coast and the Barren Islands, seas near or just under 10 feet. Southeast of 15, Kamishak Bay. Cook Inlet, south to southwest winds 15 knots. 3 foot seas in the ice-free areas. And then those increase. Northern Cook Inlet, northeast winds up to 20 knots. Small craft advisories south of the Forelands, northeast 30 knots with 8 foot seas. And for Kamishak Bay and the Barren Islands, gale warnings east 40 knots, seas 11 to 13 feet. And gale warnings for the North Gulf Coast, east winds 30 to 35 knots. And for Prince William Sound, northeast winds at 25 knots, seas hold at around 6 feet. Kodiak Island, south winds 20 knots, otherwise Shelikof Strait, northeast at 20. And southeast 25 knot winds, Sitkinak to Castle Cape to Cape Sarachev, east winds at 30 knots. Small craft advisories from Cape Sarachev all the way up the coastline there, and including Bristol Bay for east winds at 25 knots. 40 knot east winds in store for Bristol Bay on Wednesday out of the east. 40 knot east winds, seas 5 feet. Alaska Peninsula, southeast winds 30 to 35 knots, 8 to 13 foot sea. Gale warnings from Sitkinak to Castle Cape and also for Shelikof Strait. And southeast winds at 30 knots for the east side of Kodiak Island. On Alaska Island, east winds 30 knots, Unmak Island, southeast winds 40 knots. Adak and Atka, southeast 45 knots. And then southwest 35-knot winds with 16-foot seas around Chitka Island. Small craft advisories from Kiska to Shemya, southeast winds at 25 knots. And for Wednesday, Shemya to Kiska, east winds 20 knots, seas just under 20 feet. And for Chitka Island, south winds 20 knots, seas just over 20 feet. Adak and Atka, south to southwest 25 knots. And south 25 for Unmak Island. On Alaska Island, south to southeast winds 30 to 35 knots, seas up to 16 feet. Southwest coast, south winds 20 to 25 knots. St. Lawrence Island, south winds at 20 knots. Norton Sound, south at 15. And small craft advisories for the Pribilofs and St. Matthew Island, southeast winds at 30 knots. And for the day Wednesday, southeast 30 for St. Paul, St. George Island, seas around 11 feet. Gale warning St. Matthew Island and St. Lawrence Island for east winds at 35 knots. Brisk wind advisories for Norton Sound, east winds 30 knots. Gale warnings for the southwest coast, southeast winds 40 to 45 knots. And up along the eastern Boulevard Sea coast, variable winds 15 knots tomorrow. Central coast, brisk wind advisories, south winds 25 knots. Brisk wind advisories for the western Arctic coast all the way down to the Bering Strait at Wales for 25-knot winds from the south and southwest. And for the day Wednesday, from Wales to Cape Thompson, east winds 25 knots, and brisk wind advisories continue from Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort, northeast 25-knot winds there. And for the western Arctic coast, northeast winds 20 knots, swinging around to the west on the central coast at 15 knots, and then for the eastern Boulevard Sea coast, west winds at 20 knots. For tonight, winds diminish up there along the northwest coast as that low pulls northeastward, with areas of snow over much of interior Alaska, mixing with rain over south central Alaska, especially along the North Gulf Coast, and rain changing to showers and tending to end over Bristol Bay. Dry for the Alaska Peninsula. Winter storm warnings for Yakutat for a bunch of snow tonight, and gale force winds and rain come into the central Aleutians. And for tomorrow, rain and snow across southern Alaska, North Gulf Coast, chance of snow northern panhandle, dry to the south. And for Wednesday, next system increases those winds along the southwest coast, eastern Bering Sea.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.